This is Cheuk, and we'll be talking to us about Chatbot. So if we could welcome the speaker, that would be fantastic.
Thank you so much for staying before having lunch. So yeah, we are talking about chatbot. It's exciting because well, everybody's talking about chatbot, and it seems like, well, we are very AI and very high tech, but there's difference between a good chatbot and a bad chatbot. So before I talk about the chatbot, which is not a human, I gotta talk about me, which is a human. Well, maybe you have already heard it, so I will go fast. I am involved in a lot of community work. I also contribute to open source, and yeah, and if you want to stay here, come talk to me. So, chatbot, yeah, I want to know about chatbot. What is a chatbot? So, officially defined by Oxford Dictionary, is a computer program designed to simulate conversation with human users, especially over the internet. I think nowadays there's actually not just the internet, because I have to call some companies and to complain about purchasing something online and stuff, and they would actually, not a chatbot, but they could say like, oh, what's your query about? And you can just say it, and then their robot will understand it. So I think there's also a lot of, not just the internet, you can even have, speech to text, so you can talk to a robot over the phone, so which is very cool. And it also involved one thing called Turing test. So Turing test obviously is named after Alan Turing, which is a very famous computer scientist who contributed a lot in the Second World War, decoding the Enigma machine. And so yeah, he proposed that there is actually a test that you could test a robot. You can try to talk to the robot and to see, like, for example, we can invite people who help out in tests, and they could sit in front of a computer and they're chatting over the internet. So if they can't tell whether the other party over the internet is it a human or a robot, they can't distinguish them, then that would be the passing of the test. So that means that the chatbot is smart enough to fool a human that I am a human as well. So yeah. So nowadays, again, even though a lot of chatbot doesn't really go that far aiming to pass the Turing test, but it's really help out in lots of business, and there's a business use case. You'll come across a lot of chatbot in your daily life. Very obviously, Google, who doesn't love Google? Well, some people. Yeah, so they have announced a Google Assistant earlier, and then they said like, oh, we have, they have all these things that you could do with the Google service, and then if you have a Google Home, you can have it help you to, oh, what's the weather, and then it will tell you the weather today, and then it will, you can even ask for a joke, like some people do, and there's actually a lot of people who try to get these robots to tell a joke, but it's always come back with a very funny joke that is funny because it's not because it's a good joke, it's just because it's so bad. So well, it works kind of. And also that Google, that was mainly almost covered the whole world, but China always have their own versions of stuff and their own technology. So they have these WeChat. If you don't know, WeChat is kind of like a social application that is like a WhatsApp, but you can also use it to buy stuff. You can use it to it's like a lot of things that you can't use in China, for example, Facebook and all these WhatsApp, and it will replace by WeChat. So you can use it like asking, oh, what's around you? Maybe you're looking for a post office or you're looking for a certain restaurant, and it will help you. And also you can transfer money and to your friend, and so when you have after having dinner, you can easily sort out the finances. But because it's from China, it also got a special function that it do the censorship. It will avoid certain words, so it won't display certain things to you. If it's got censored by the government, then you won't get, you can't get the message across, and you can't say that as well, and the government will know if you say something that you shouldn't say. So, but something less, controversial. but also raise a lot of eyebrows. Is Babylon? They have these because they are like a technology startup that was working in the medical health industry. So they have these symptom checker chatbot. So what they want trying to do is like they could replace more or less, like not all like 100%, but maybe a certain sort of function of a GP, that instead of if you just got a cold, you don't have to book an appointment with the GP and go in there. You can maybe just tell this chatbot that, oh, I feel a bit dizzy and I was coughing and I'm not feeling well, because then it would give you some information of what may be the reason and what you should do and things like that. But it raised a lot of concern that people are not feeling comfortable that is reliable enough to replace a GP. So I think they are still working a lot to developing it, but I'm not using Babylon, so I can't tell you more. Yeah. Also, this is a chatbot that is developed by Revolut. I've actually used it because I use Revolut, especially when I go overseas, because they make it very easy to use their card board, and then also they don't charge you as much as a traditional bank. So I use them. So they have these Rita, they call for customer support. So what happened to me is like, I remember when I was in Namibia, when I was going to PyCon Namibia, and then I bring some cash, but not a lot. I also bring my Revolut card, so you can get cash from the ATM using a Revolut card in Namibia, which is convenient. But something happened. I can't get my cash, it got rejected. I was worried that my account got locked, then I can't spend any money in Namibia, which is scary. Because it's the first couple of days that we were in Namibia, we were planning to go for a road trip afterwards. I was like, oh my god, I need money. And so I tried to get customer support through the app, and I was texting, and then after maybe 2 or 3 conversations, I know that it's a chatbot, and I feel that it's not helpful enough. So, and then I just say, can I talk to a real person? And then of course I was prompted back to a traditional, human customer support. So sometimes it happens when you feel that people don't really want to talk to a chatbot, and they know that it's a chatbot, then you always need to provide a human as a backup to help your users. So yeah, enough for explaining and talking about my experience with chatbot. The 3 things that I want to tell you about chatbot are as follows. So the first thing, I want to talk about what's the main component of a chatbot. Because I tried to build a chatbot myself before, and then I realized that actually a chatbot is a big machine, it's quite complicated, and there is a lot of components in it. For example, we have machine learning, because we have this thing called NLU, which is Natural Language Understanding Unit, and they is something that nowadays, if you want a chatbot that perform well, you have to use certain machine learning and deep learning technique to train it, so it will understand in a sentence what this is about, and is it some, like, for example, the word apple, is it like useful information? Shall I extract that from my user input and use it later? And so that would really involve a lot of machine learning. So if you want to build a chatbot from scratch, maybe you have to find somebody who knows machine learning, and also a sentiment analysis as well. I've tried to implement that in my chatbot, and that could help, because if a user is angry or dissatisfied, maybe you want to prompt back the human to help. So yeah. App development, of course, I am not a software developer. I work as a data scientist, so even though I can do some of these things, but if I have a company and I want to build a startup from scratch, maybe I want to hire an app developer to help me with the back end, the dialog manager, build an application that help me to engineer what the interaction of what the flow of the conversation should be, and also maybe help me to build a database to store the users I collect from users information I collected, So yeah, that would require some engineering talent. Yeah, again, data engineering, like maybe I want to store the data for some, imagine if you have a banking system that you got lots of information from your customer because you've got a lot of accounts with the customers, and then they would have ask a lot of things, you have to store them. So yeah, you need a lot of different people with different talents. So it's not a one-man job. It's actually a teamwork to build a chatbot. Yeah, so you can see lots of people and the dog. But I managed to build a chatbot from scratch, even though it's not, it's a prototype. It's not something that is put into commercial use. But how can I do it by myself? Because we have some tools and framework available, so do a lot of heavy lifting of all those things for me, so I can build a prototype chatbot in kind of fairly easily. And the second thing, while I was trying to build this chatbot, and I realized that, well, it's like we have a lot of misunderstanding of chatbot. We thought that chatbot can do a lot of things, but maybe there are limitations if we understand what it could do and could not do, and maybe when we design them, we can have better ideas. For example, some chatbots, they are trying too hard for passing the Turing test. Again, like a lot of commercial chatbots, they are there for a purpose. They are there to do certain job. For example, handle some questions from the customer, certain type of questions, not talking about weather, not talking about what you like to eat and things like that. So what a human could do, but well, we are not building a chatbot commercially to pass the Turing test. So for those chit-chat, maybe we should not engage the customer with that. And then also, if you're trying too hard and pretend that, this is the customer service representative, but no, it's actually a chatbot, then a user will feel like, well, you're lying, you're not hiring a person to serve me, you're just using a chatbot, and they feel that they're fooled, which is not good for your company's image. Again, like handle too many things and chit-chat and make the user feel very frustrated. And people will be like me, like my experience with Revolut, I'll be like, can I talk to a real person? Better design will be let the user know that they're talking to a chatbot, and they know that they won't have too much expectation from your chatbot. That's better than fooling them. Some chatbots, they are lacking a clear dialog flow. Like I'm not talking about the Google product dialog flow, but the flow of the conversation. Because when you design a board for commercial use, you have to serve the purpose. You have to redirect the conversation back to what it intended to do. If you want to understand what the user wants from your chatbot, maybe they need to get some information about their accounts from your chatbot. Then, well, when the user is trying to they are sidetracked, they're asking questions that's irrelevant, you have to find a way, gracefully and comfortably, back to what we were talking about before is about your account and things like that, and handle one thing at a time, because sometimes, again, if you try, a human can do that, right? Well, not all humans, some people are horrible at multitasking, but yeah, even humans, sometimes it's better to handle one thing at a time, so don't expect a chatbot to do that. So, also, again, don't try to be smart and chit-chat with your customers. They don't want it, they just go there to get what they want, get the service they want. And when the user know clearly that they're talking to a chatbot, they know that how to navigate this conversation to get what they want. It's kind of like when, for example, if you want to ask for balance of your account, you know that you have to have certain keywords so your chatbot will understand. You won't talk about something like, what's my maybe more clear about what's my balance today, as of today, and instead of asking something like, how much do I spend? so which is very fake. So if a user have more experience of using the chatbot, the user actually will adopt the chatbot, even though this may not be ideal, because at the end you want your chatbot to be as good as a human to adopt to your user. But unfortunately, right now we have to let the user adopt to the chatbot still. Some design making the bot looks really dumb, and maybe it's sometimes not just bad design, maybe not enough technological support. For example, you don't have enough training data, so your NLU model would become very bad. So won't understand what exactly user want. If you talk about account balance, or maybe if you don't train it specifically to talk about banking, maybe the chatbot will think balance means that you are walking, on the edge, so you have to balance yourself. That's different, same word but different meaning. So yeah. Also, not enough content diversity. So far, my experience of building a chatbot, you still have to provide the template of how a chatbot reply to a user. So if you always say, if the chatbot always say the same thing, it feels really dull, even though it's a robot, but you still don't want your robot to be very robotic. Like you don't want your chatbot to always greet your user to be, hello, how can I help? And then again would be like, hello, how can I help? Well, it's quite dull, and you can actually add another option of like, oh, good morning or good afternoon, according to the time. Then it will already be better, and the user will feel happier. Also, avoid decision trees kind of navigation. Like, have you ever, call to some kind of hotline and you have to press 1 for something, and then you press 2, and then you press 1, and then press 2. And that's decision tree. It's like, oh, so what do you want? So it's A or B, and then you go there, and then he's like, okay, is it about A or about B? And then that's very tedious. And then for pressing a button, maybe it's easier, but you have to say things like answer question 1 at a time until you get what you want. It's very frustrating. And if you can just ask the user, what's your query today? And they just tell you, about my account balance. So you go straight to the account balance instead of are you our customer? Do you have a customer number with you? And that would be really unnecessary. So good examples to summarize what is a good design. Good NLP capacity means you have trained your model well enough to handle lots of the user cases. Some example would be I'm a Mac user, so I can now you can just type in meeting with Michael tomorrow 2 p.m. at somewhere. Then it will already put your diary in your calendar, which is very smart because it knows that how to pick the time, the location, and what you're doing within that sentence. Also, Gmail well, it's not a chatbot, but it got a very good NLP application. Like for example, when I reply to an email, it will suggest some template for me, so I don't have to type. I'm so lazy, so let the user know explicitly they are talking to a chatbot assistant, not a real human. That would help. And then be very clear what information is needed from the user. Be specific when you're asking a user question. And also prepare to fail gracefully when the conversation doesn't go to the right direction. So instead of just asking, oh, I don't understand, can you repeat? Oh, I don't understand, can you repeat? Maybe you can try to guess what the user was trying to say and then redirect it back to the original conversation. So the last thing, I have built a chatbot. I've tried to use different framework, and I've done some workshops. So I want to maybe briefly introduce them. So Rasa, which is the one that I've used to build the chatbot and the workshop, is an open source framework. We love open source. It got the community support. There's a forum online. You can ask questions, and it's fully customizable. Of course, you can even change the code yourself if you can. But you have to deploy it yourself. It doesn't provide any, hosting and cloud service, so you have to deploy it yourself. But it also got an enterprise version available. I haven't used it. I didn't pay, so explore it yourself. Watson by IBM. They do have some community support through the Slack. They have the SDK, of course you can download it. It provided a free version, so I think for personal project, I'll try it out, it's going to be enough. But it also has different pricing options if you're working for a company, if you're using that for commercial work. Google have similar products. Dialog Pro, they have a group that you can find different users and ask questions. They have the SDK and some examples on GitHub. You can learn it from there. And again, you have free version to try, and then before you buy the enterprise version. Next, similar, provided by Amazon. I've used that before, but I found it quite a black box. So yeah, but also you can try it out, and they provide lots of different programming SDK, like in different languages that you could use. Comparison. Yeah, I would like to say that like many things, like having a good documentation is important. People praise about dialog flow. I found that Rasa is quite good. Lex is frustrating because I found that I'm not very good at looking at Amazon's documentation. I feel like it's more like you have to have some expertise in doing that, which I'm not, so like difficult. Yeah, configuration, testing, all these that come from this blog post. I'll share my slides so you can have a detailed look about people's opinion. My feeling about Rasa is very flexible. Of course, it's open source, and you don't have to pay for it. So I love it because it's not a black box. You know what it's doing. You can tune how the NLP was trained, so it's very good. My 2 cents. So when you build a chatbot, which one do you choose? And then I think you have to think about what's your purpose. Do you do it as a personal project or a commercial project? What resources do you have? How much money are you willing to spend on it? Are you willing to deploy it yourself? Are you happy to do it yourself? What skill level do you have? Are you good at machine learning but not so good on engineering like me, or the reverse? You're a very experienced engineer but you may not work that much on machine learning. So yeah, and how much time you want to invest in it. So yeah, so that's towards the end of my talk today. But I do have a workshop online on my GitHub. It's a workshop that I was written before. You could follow it and try it out yourself. It was using the Rasa framework that I used before, which I found is a very good open source tool. So yeah, feel free to go to the link and play around and have a chatbot yourself. Yeah.
We do have time for questions.
Do you know of any other open source chatbot frameworks other than Rasa, or is that really, in terms of the open source, is it really Rasa is the choice?
I'm sure there is, but I forgot the name. I think I did a quick search on Google before, and there is other framework, but I know about Rasa from a conference last year, and some of their people working to develop it give a presentation, and I was inspired, and I've tried it, and I love it because it used Spacey to do the NLP and stuff. But it's also provide an option to train it yourself using TensorFlow. So yeah, I like it.
What do you see? Is there a future in your creating chatbots? Are you going to continue your journey further on? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to. Actually, for my workshop, I would love to add more application in it. So if you have an idea, please let me know, because my workshop is on GitHub, it's open source, so I welcome contribution as well. So yeah, talk to me.
Fantastic. So if we could thank this, are there any more questions?
It's a bit of a silly question. But you know, with the natural language processing that is going on, my dad doesn't speak English as his first language, and he finds that, you know, whenever he calls Barclays and they ask him, what are you calling for, that they never seem to understand what he's asking for. Do you think that there is some sort of development being made with that? Because not everyone speaks English as their first language, and somehow
Google Translation already done that. So if you download Google Translation, there's a
Dialog, what?
dialogue. It's called dialogue. Yeah. So I speak that with a lady from Bulgaria,
Yeah.
and then it's in park we post the kid. So I open that and speak that, and they say,
So they understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I think company big giants like Google, they are. I had been to their talk. It's like their research team in NL. He was giving a presentation, so they are doing a lot of language processing research to try to make it very, adaptive for people with different backgrounds. So I think, it may take some time, but it will get better.
and it's free.
That's the most
Yeah.
important.
You just simply download the Google Translation app, and that's it.
Yeah. So we are doing better at natural language processing right now. So it's exciting, and everybody can. Oh, and also, by the way, Rasa's using Spacey, which is a language tool that they also support language other than English. They also support German and some other European languages as well. So, yeah. Yes.
If you have no experience with natural language processing and data science, can you still have a good go at the workshop?
Yes, absolutely. The workshop is for everybody. You don't have to understand that much, but of course, if you want to know more, you're welcome to go to Spacey's documentation or find something online to learn about it. But the workshop is for everybody.
Fantastic. So you will get thank the speaker once more for her amazing talk, and you can all have lunch.